Welcome to ZBook's Successful Author Podcast. And with me, I have the author, Larada Horner-Miller, the #1 bestseller in 5 categories. She wrote the book Coronavirus Reflections, Bitter or Better. Hi, Larada. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Winter's coming. I'm in Germany, and it's getting cold out there. How's the weather? Where are you at?
I live in New Mexico, outside of Albuquerque, and we're cold.
How many degrees?
I think it's in the 40s. It's not super cold right now, but we're in the 40s.
Yeah, that's cold enough. That's cold. We've got plus degrees too right now. We're not technically freezing yet. Yeah. So what got you started in writing?
Well, it's interesting because I thought about this. I am someone that got spurred on in high school. I wrote an essay and threw it on the dining room table. And my uncle, I grew up in a little ranching community in southeastern Colorado. And my uncle came over to help my dad do something on the ranch and ate lunch with mom and dad and picked up my essay and said, "Oh my goodness," I was a senior in high school, and he goes, "Oh my goodness, I was planning to become a beautician." And he said, "Don't waste yourself being a beautician. You should be a writer." And I just put that on a hook. I didn't, I continued down the path that I had chosen. And then a teacher of mine came back for a reunion that we had a couple years after that. And she was my journalism teacher in high school. And she said, "I want a signed copy of your first book." Well, I put that on a hook, but then I was just someone that just didn't pursue it. And I got divorced and went back to school. I was a beautician, went back and became a teacher. And of course, I was an English teacher. And so I had to write lots of papers for that degree. And we had one professor there. I went to Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado. And what he would do is he assigned different essays for us. And then he would pick the top 2 essays and read them to the class. And I'll never forget the day that he read one of my essays. And it was like, oh my God. And then I watched the people around me, and it was like, oh my gosh, I did really well on that. But I still, went on with life.
You didn't start writing yet.
Grab it right then.
Yeah.
Well, I did, but I just did. I wrote a historic fiction, but I put it in the drawer for 30 years. So.
And so is this the first book you've written in 30 years?
No.
Oh.
The Coronavirus Reflections book is my 6th book.
Okay.
My first one I wrote was This Tumbleweed Landed, and it's a memoir of my life growing up in that small ranching community during the 50s and 60s. And it's a collection of poetry and prose. Then I did write that I grabbed that historic fiction out of the drawer and I published that one. And then my dad and I put together a really fun book for his 75th birthday. And it's a nonfiction about how my grandfather put our ranch together during the Depression when others were losing theirs. So I published that.
Oh, wow.
And then I did another book. My mom passed away in 2013, and I wrote a grief memoir. The name of it is A Time to Grow Up, a daughter's grief memoir. And then I got caught up. I had the privilege of writing the biography of the most famous square dance caller in the world. His name was Marshall Flippo. And I wrote that. That really kind of kept the pandemic going. I was occupied doing that during the pandemic. So the name of that is Just Another Square Dance Caller, authorized biography of Marshall Flippo. So that was my 5th book. And so the Coronavirus Reflection book is my 6th. And I have 3 cookbooks.
Oh, nice. What are they called?
From Granny's Kitchen. And what they are is a collection of my mother's recipes. What I did them for family Christmas presents after my mom passed away. And I scanned in her recipe cards. And so there's 3 of them in this series. And so you see her handwriting, and people of that era, their handwriting is so beautiful.
Yeah,
and then
it's
she
crazy.
has little Yeah, she has little notes on the side, very good. And you can
Hmm.
see where she used them and her fingerprints are on them. So turns out I only planned to do them for my family, but my family said, no, these are great. You better sell
Hmm.
these. So I have.
Awesome. Yeah, I was whenever I saw my grandmother's handwriting, it was amazing. Don't they teach writing in school anymore?
They don't anymore. Cursive is out the door, which I don't understand that. But
Ah, oh well, that's another
crazy.
topic for another interview, huh? Yeah. So
Yeah, really.
yeah. Okay, yeah, I was looking at your book. So you're a square dancer too.
Yes, I am. Yes, I grew up square dancing. My dad was our club 4-H club caller, and my mom and dad were square dancing the night before I was born. So they said it was in my blood. So yes,
Wow.
I love it.
Cool.
I've square danced all over the United States.
Nice. And are you in a club or something?
I'm
What?
in a club, and
Yeah.
then I'm in 2 or 3 clubs in here
Hmm.
in the Albuquerque area, and
Yeah.
then we have a square dance hall in Albuquerque, and my husband and I are on the board that runs a square dance club.
Yeah, cool.
It's a whole dance hall.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, then. Well, tell us about your book, The Coronavirus Reflections.
Well, what started it all was my husband and I had traveled to Spain in March of 2020. We were in Madrid on the 8th of March, and on the 9th of March, we got home. On the 8th of March, Spain had 500 cases, and when we got home, they had 1,500. And we just knew that we were going to get the virus. So we self quarantined for 2 weeks. We're on our iPads checking numbers all the time and just, in the midst of that initial insanity. I have a weekly blog that I do. And one of the ways that I've always processed any deep emotions is writing,
Mhm.
either through prose or poetry. So I started writing my about my experience, how I was feeling with all of the craziness that was going on. And so I had some of my readers emailed me and said, "Wow, thank you for sharing your thoughts. You're voicing what I'm feeling. I couldn't put it into words. You did." So those blog posts inspired this book. And what it is it's a collection. It's 31 chapters. Each chapter starts off with a picture. I'm a visual person and I love pictures. A very stimulating picture, a quote, and then my experience with that topic of the chapter. And then the chapter ends with a probing question. So the book really is an opportunity for people to look back, read, reflect, and respond to what happened to them during the pandemic. It's really focused on 2020 and the early part of 2021.
Yeah, I like what you wrote there. It says, bitter or better, life hands us a curveball every once in a while. Then we have the option of how we respond. And you had several of those opportunities in your life. You want to tell us about them?
Well, yes, I've been handed lots of curveballs in my life. I am in recovery. I have been in recovery for 33 years, so I have walked that road, and all of that handed me lots of curveballs in my life.
Hmm.
My dad, when my dad passed away, I was sober, thank God, and was able to deal with that. And then when my mom got sick and passed away, well, when she got sick, she moved to Albuquerque and moved with us, and I was her primary care giver for 3 months. She went very quickly, so that was a hard one to deal with. I wanted children my whole life, and it never happened. So I've had lots of heartbreak along the way.
Hmm. Yeah, it says here you knew 55 people, five of which who died from coronavirus. Was that all in the United States?
Yes, and that number has grown. I'm
Oh,
still keeping the list, and I just added to the list today I now know 100 people that have gotten it, and I know 10 people that have died. So that's really interesting. Look at that, 100 people I know, and 10 have died. So that's a 10%.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, wow. I don't know. I know one. But I haven't counted all that I know that have gotten it. It's also a lot. Yeah, terrible stuff. It says here also that you want people can use your book like a journal. How is that?
Well, one of the things that is a key part of my life is journaling. I started many years ago using I read Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. And so I've written morning pages. I'm on my 169th notebook. And so I've used the gift or the tool of journaling for many, many years. And so using this book as a guide, reading the chapter and then responding to the question, it certainly can be used as a journal. And you can write right in the book, or if you have an electronic version, you can make your own journal up too. So, or if you're a journal writer and you have your own journal, you can write in there. But I'm a strong believer that journaling has been the key to a lot of my success in my life.
Yeah, I'm a big fan too. I really believe in that. And you mentioned morning pages. I've heard of them. And aren't those the ones that the stream of thought that you write and then you throw them away later?
Well, you don't necessarily throw them away, because I actually saw Julia Cameron in Santa Fe in 2014 at a writing conference, and I asked her the question. They had a question and answer session. It was Julia Cameron and Natalie Goldberg, two of my absolute heroes in the writing world. And so I asked her the question during the question and answer series. I said, "What do you do with your morning pages notebooks?" And she just laughed and she said, "Well, I have lots of them," because she's been doing them. I've probably been doing them 20 years, and she's been doing them longer than that. And she said, "Well, I have a line in my will that they are to be burned before I'm burned." So she keeps them, and I've kept them too. I've kept them. I've got boxes in my storage shed. But yeah, they're for nobody else's eyes. They're yours. They're for you only.
And do you journal first thing in the morning, or once a day, or twice a day?
I do it first thing in the morning. She really encourages you as the creative person, because she really believes, The Artist's Way was written not just for writers. It was written for anybody that is a creative person. And she believes that those creative juices are right there on the surface when you get up in the morning. So it needs to be like the first thing you do. So that's what I try. I mean, nobody can do it perfectly, but
yeah, and
it's a good way to start the day.
Yeah, I'm doing it in the morning too. Now I've tried many ways, and a person I interviewed on my blog, on my channel, is Benjamin Hardy. He's really big into the journaling technique too, and I'm using his technique now every morning, and it's really cool. I really like it, so I'm going to stick with that one. And oh yeah, I'm a big believer in journals now. I highly recommend it to everyone, especially kids. Kids need to start journaling. And anyway, tell us more about your blog too. So that was like the basis for your book. And what's the name of your blog? Can we still see it?
Well, yes, it's on my webpage, and it's Larada's blog. You can go to my webpage, laradasbooks.com, and it's there. And it's something I started it 8 years ago. In fact, the post I just did this last week was, I always like to, in January, look at the previous year, and I gather statistics. I'm a statistic person. I'm a computer person, so I'm one of those nerds. And so I look at all the statistics and am very interested. So I wrote about what happened last year for me in my blog. And what I do is I usually focus on a variety of topics. I I have dedicated one blog a month to Marshall Flippo, the square dance caller, because his life was so big that I liked. He was in his he was like 90 when he died. So I focused on just a different chapter in a different part of his life every month. But then I also focus on writing. I'm a poet, so I share my poetry. And then I share about life. And it was funny, in November, I did a challenge, a blog challenge. A friend of mine, a writing friend of mine told me about it. It was called the Ultimate Blog Challenge, and it was to write a blog post every day in November. And I think they were kind of piggybacking on NaNoWriMo, that whole idea of writing a novel in November. So I did it. I missed the first day because I didn't know about it. So out of that writing, it was really fun, but out of that writing, I came up with my mission statement, which is I'm a baby boomer with a purpose.
Cool.
And so that's going to be a focus of mine coming up in this next year. So awesome. I write about a variety of things, but a lot of things that are going on in my life, in the world. I do current events a lot too.
Yeah, it's nice. I saw some of it. But you just said boomer. Is that an insult now? Are you allowed to call people boomers?
There's such mixed feelings about baby boomers. It's hilarious. I just have to accept the fact that that's who I am. And I want to have a purpose. I'm 68 years old. And I know so many people that retire and their goal is to sit in front of the TV and watch soap operas and drink beer. And that certainly isn't my purpose in life, And so really my purpose is to share my thoughts and share my voice.
That's excellent. I want to retire early because I don't want to, work, and I'd rather write, and so what is but what years are baby boomers? I don't even know what generation I am.
I think it's like, I was born in 53, and I think I'm just right on the edge of it. So
what comes
it's got to be
baby
like
boomers?
In the early, I'm not sure.
Me neither. Okay, I'll have to Google it. I'll Google it. If you don't mind, I'd like to test you from your book. I want to read one paragraph from your book.
Okay.
And see. Okay. So as I moved to the holiday aisle, malted Easter eggs lured me in. Impulse buying. No, it's Easter time. I always buy them at Easter. I resorted to my normal routine. 2 bags. When I got home, I wolfed down one whole bag immediately and gained 3 pounds the next morning. Can you expound on that?
Well, I believe that was kind of like the first time I went to the grocery store, or some of the first time I went to the grocery store after I had been self-quarantined because we were getting close to Easter. And, comfort food is always the thing I turn to in stressful times. And man, those malted Easter eggs really, they did the bill. They were exactly what I needed at the moment to quell the feelings that were there. So
everybody has their weakness. So with you, it's malted Easter eggs. With me, it's mint Oreos. I love mint Oreos. Yeah. Oh man, you're making me hungry. Okay. Okay. What else? Okay. So you can use your book as a journal. You have prompts in there, but it's also a story at the same time. And so what's the one, what do you call it? If the readers can only get one thing out of your book, what do you want it to be?
Well, I think what I want readers to walk away with is that we all experienced a horrible, life-changing time with the pandemic, and that how we walk away from it, we have a choice. It can either make us bitter or better. And I struggled through the year that I journaled about, that I wrote about, and I wrestled with God. I was angry, I was afraid, I was scared, I was all of those emotions that go with it. But it also, because I made the choice, I dove deeper spiritually. I've had a spiritual practice for many years, and I made the choice to go deeper. And I think that was the thing that helped me walk away from it better, not healed, not perfect, it still goes on, craziness is still happening today with it. But I was really able to put to rest in my heart my experience during the beginning, during that first year.
So,
So the reader has the choice, and I challenge the reader to realize that they can either walk away bitter or better.
Awesome. You said spiritual practice. What can you tell me about that, if you don't mind?
No, I would love to. I do my morning pages every morning, and then I read devotional material that has to do with recovery. I'm a Christian, and so I read Bible stuff. But this book is larger than Christianity. It would embrace anybody that's on a spiritual path. I learned that in recovery, that there are lots of ways to heal, and this book and my path is larger. I am a Christian, but it's larger than that. So I do that. I pray. I've added meditation. During the pandemic, I cited in the book, I came up with all these things about what I'm a doer. I just had to do something. So I read about in World War II, they did a prayer at 9 o'clock worldwide. So I put out on Facebook to all my friends, let's join each other and do a prayer at 9 o'clock. And then my Catholic friends were, communicating with me, and I'm not Catholic, but I downloaded the rosary, and I have a rosary that I got as a souvenir when I was in Germany in 1999. And so I did the rosary for about 3 weeks. So, I just tried everything, and I do a lot of Buddhist reading and reading the Tao. So during that time, I just enlarged. I enlarged and went deeper. And and by going deeper, I think the thing that I did, and I showed this in the book, is that I really identified the struggle, the wrestle with God. If you're out there, how can this happen? And so, which is almost the stance of an agnostic, but I really went through all of the feelings that I was going through at the time. And so that's my spiritual path. Of course, being in recovery, I attend regularly 12-step meetings and do that sort of work, and have a sponsor and sponsor people in the program. So it just was big, and it continues to.
That's interesting, because I think it brought a lot of people closer to whatever they want to call it. And, it's funny because you mentioned a lot of things. I was going to say, you sound like a California Christian, Zen Buddhism, meditation, Christianity. I'm from California. So I was saying, hey, are you from California too? We just kind of mix and match. But yeah, it's he who wrestles with God. Isn't that what the word Israel means, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, interesting stuff. And I know I'm getting closer, or trying to find my spiritual path more and more as I get older. I was born in California and basically agnostic, but never anti. And I have stories about that too. So I'm really interested in your path. Very, very interesting. And so what else? Do you ever get writer's block?
I don't, but I do. I have so many topics, I have 5 books waiting, they're in the queue that I'm wrestling on which one should I grab now. But one of the things that really helps me with that whole idea of writer's block is another writing practice that Natalie Goldberg started many, many years ago. And I used it with my students when I was teaching writing, with 6th graders. I can remember them. They were so amazing. And it's called writing practice. And again, it's stream of consciousness writing, like the morning pages. But it is, you can write about whatever you want, or you can write about a topic. But I would start each of my classes off with a prompt for them to write about. And then I would do my administration things. I had to do attendance. I had to do this. I had to do that. And I could usually jump in. I usually had about 3 or 4 minutes. So I always had my journal right by me, and I would grab a seat and jump in and write with them. And that instilled in me a practice that I did with them. And then I stopped. I cannot believe I stopped that. And then last March, I attended a 2-month writing course with Natalie and got going with it again. And I really know that writing practice for me, it's again a daily practice, 10 minutes, write whatever you want, stream of consciousness, or you can do topics. And that's the thing that really gets through the writing blocks for me. And I use that practice whenever I was writing, when I was doing the coronavirus book too.
Oh, yeah. And you taught writing to which grade?
6th graders.
Oh, awesome.
And I have done it lately too. Over the before the pandemic, I did a memoir workshop in Albuquerque. And that was absolutely amazing to watch adults. You know, I would do timed writing and I would give them prompts about things that were, you know, I'd give them like ideas about, okay, let's write about the first 5 years or the first 10 years of your life. And they would write. And there's nothing more rewarding for a teacher seeing a room full of people with their, you know, their heads down and their hands going. So
that's cool. Yeah. Okay. So who's your favorite author?
My favorite, I have a couple. Tony Hillerman, who writes about the Native American world, the Navajo world mostly, is probably my favorite Southwest writer. And Margaret Mitchell, I love Gone with the Wind. That will always be the book that captured my heart in a way probably no other book did. Cool. Charles Dickens too.
Yeah. Okay, that's the next question. Who's your favorite author? Oh, no, your favorite book. Your favorite book.
Yeah, it's Gone with the Wind. I remember when I read it when I was in junior high.
It's a long book.
It's a thick book. It is.
Yeah. That's why I got my Kindle. I was tired of holding these heavy books, and that's what actually got me into Kindle. It's just easier to hold, you know? Okay. Well, do you have any like productivity hacks or life hacks?
Well, I do in the whole realm of how I did my life with writing. You know, I wrote my first book when I was going to college. So I was probably, we'll say 30 years old. I didn't publish a book until I was almost 60. That's 30 years, you know. So I guess the thing that I would say that I really would like to share with people is if you are a writer, you don't put it on the back burner. You know, a lot of life demands out there. I know when I was working, it was hard to figure a time in to do the stuff that you need to do around writing, but you will regret it. I can guarantee you if you let 30 years disappear without doing the writing. And I know back 30 years ago, you know, I self-published my books, and I know that the self-publishing world was a non-existent, you know, so it was a total different possibility then. But you know, today you can self-publish, you can produce a book, and you don't have to do the, you know, I read stories about people before the self-publishing world came in where they got with like a hybrid, or you know, got some company to publish them. They had 10,000 and they could only print 10,000 copies. So they had their garage full of 10,000 books that, you know, who knows if they were going to sell them or not. So I would just say, you know, go for it, you know, go for it.
That's kind of my next question. What's the one thing you would do different if you had to do it all over again?
I would publish earlier. I would believe I was a writer earlier.
Yeah, and you can do that with journaling, actually, talking to your future self. Yeah. Yes. All right. So what's on the horizon for you?
Well, like I said a while ago, I have 5 books that are lined up. The one that I'm going to work on this year, I guess there's another thing that's on the horizon. I'm tackling audiobooks. Oh. I will be finishing my first one this afternoon and uploading it to the 2 stations that I'm going to send it to. And then I'm going to do, I did the story about how my family ranch was put together, because that was the shortest book. So I wanted to learn the whole thing the easiest way. So then I'm going to do my Bitter or Better book. and then I have scheduled out to do all my books.
Cool.
So that's the major project there. But I am also got a book I've got 5 books lined up. So the first one is, the title is I Said Yes, and it's my process. It's 2 parts. It's my process of how I did the biography of Marshall Flippo, and then it's kind of a journal part, the first part, and then the second part is how to, because I learned a lot. When you're doing, before that book, every book I wrote was my personal story or my personal information. When you're doing a biography, when you're talking about somebody else, there are so many pieces that you have to have lined up that I learned as I did. So that's the next one. Then I have 3 poetry books that are going to be a series. And then in 2016, I did a novel in NaNoWriMo. I wrote a novel.
Oh,
So
cool.
that is sitting and waiting to be, and I planned to do that before I had the privilege of writing that biography. So it's been in the wings for a while.
Yeah, well, good. You got some busy stuff going on there. I like it. I like it. Yeah, I I have too many books to do too, and then it's a problem of focusing. Well, which one do you do first? So this year, though, that was one of my what do you call it? My wins is that I prioritized my list of books. So because before I was just going back and forth and back and forth, and you can't do that. I think you can't do that. You have to stick with one and finish it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We have time for one more question, a grab bag question. If you could eat dinner with anyone, past, present, or future, who would it be?
There are so many people in the past that I just absolutely love and followers of, but here we are so close to it. I think I would sit with Martin Luther King Jr. He was such an impact on my life. When I was teaching 8th graders, the month of January every year, we would do, I was teaching language arts and literature. We did a unit. I had a phenomenal unit on Martin Luther King and civil rights. And
Nice.
so I got my students actively involved in civil disobedience. And they came to me. We were reading about it in Desert Storm hit at that time. And they said, Ms. Horner, we just read about the sit-ins and all of this. Can't we do something? Can't we sit in? This war's so wrong. So I went to my principal and asked him, and he said, well, you can't do a demonstration against the war. So how about a sit-in for peace? So we just framed it different. And this was in a little school in northern New Mexico. There's about 200 kids in the school. The whole school participated. My students and I organized it, but the whole school participated, and that was life-changing. It was just amazing. One of the janitors had just been called up he was in the reserves, and he had just been called up. And so we had an open mic time, and he came up and talked and cried, and we all cried because we loved him. But Martin Luther King was such a believer in the whole concept of the civil disobedience, which was Thoreau's idea. And it was just what we needed at the time, but it's what we need today.
Mm-hmm.
I love his teachings are timeless. And I would just like to sit at his side and say, tell me about what the struggle really was for you.
Mm-hmm.
We got to see this out here in his beautiful writing, but I don't know. I think he was life-changing.
I would like to see what he would say today, because the problem is everybody has their own interpretation, and so they're really interviewing his daughter in TV a lot and trying to get to Martin Luther King through his daughter. I would really like to see what he would say today to all of the happenings and stuff. Yeah, oh boy, we're going to have to do another podcast maybe about that,
Awesome. I would love it. I do have one more thing I want to jump in and say real fast about what I would say is a good life hack for writers is get in a writing group.
Mm-hmm.
That just came to me. I'm in a writing group I've been in for 4 years that we critique each other's work. And then I'm in another writing group where we just do writing practice together every week and share our writing practice with each other. But there's nothing more powerful than being together with writers critiquing each other's work.
That is a great tip. And you were talking about a method of writing, or was that what you taught the kids? What was it called?
Writing practice. That's Natalie Goldberg's method of writing.
Natalie
and she's
Goldberg's method of
yeah,
writing.
she is a phenomenal. I have a crate over here beside me with her books. I mean, she has written 15 books and still writing. And all of her books she has one novel, but all of her books are about writing. And life-changing. Absolutely. Writing Down the Bone. That's the book that changed my life with my students. That's the initial book she wrote.
What's it called?
Writing Down the Bones.
The bone. The bone. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Writing Down the Bone.
That's a great tip. That's a great tip. I'm taking that. All right. So, well, Larada, this has been pleasant, more than pleasant. I love talking about these things with you. Where can we find you online, and where's your book?
Okay, I have a website, laradasbooks.com. Let me spell it because it's a different. LARADAS. That's my name, Larada. Larada's Books, BOOKS.com. You can buy my books at Amazon. There are the ebooks are all over the place in all the different platforms, not only just Amazon. You can buy my books online on my website, but you can also get them at my Etsy shop, which is Larada's Reading Loft, LOFT. And right now on Amazon, my book is discounted. My ebook is discounted. The coronavirus book is discounted to $2.99. So you might want to check that out because that price will be changing at the end of this month. And if you on my website and join the email list, you will get the first chapter of the book. So if you want to go, it's a good way to do it too.
Awesome. Did you say you're selling them on Etsy too? How do you do that?
Yes, I have an Etsy shop, and I sell them individually and I sell them in bundles.
But
so
the
I have all my
PDF or
books
the
there, even
physical
my
book?
cookbooks. That's the only place you can buy my cookbooks. It's both.
Okay. Cool.
What you do is put in, or if you want the physical book, you can put an order into me, then I mail it out to you. So it's an interface. It's like Shopify.
Yeah, I like Etsy. I've tried it, and
So
that's why I was curious how you sell books on that. I'm going to check out your shop, young lady.
Yeah, do that.
All right.
It's a great place. I love it.
Well, thank you for being here, and let me know when you publish that next book.
I will. I certainly will, Eric. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.